to the many faces of Khan. Today I will entertain you and warm your hearts with the twisted tale of Henry VIII and his wives. Guess how many wives he had? 6 of them.
He had 6 wives.
Yes, I know, I just said that. First, there was Catherine of Aragon, then his most famous wife, Anne Boleyn. After that, he married Jane Seymour. After her, there was Anne of Cleves. Soon after, he married Catherine Howard, and finally, Catherine Parr. He must have really liked the name Catherine. He married 3 Catherines. But then again, there were only so many names that English upper crust named their daughters back then. Mary, Margaret, Jane, Anne, Elizabeth, Catherine. Speaking of Catherine, let's take a look at Henry VIII's first wife, the first of 3 Catherines, Catherine of Aragon. Catherine of Aragon was born on December 16th, 1485, the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella. Those two knew how to instill fear into the hearts of their country. And they loved each other so much while doing it. Catherine was born with reddish gold hair and blue eyes with fair skin, the youngest of 5, but yet she still managed to be her parents' favorite, even though she was not the heir or a boy. Her childhood was a happy one, being the happiest years of her life, probably. Catherine was very well read for a woman at the time. She was educated like a prince, which is almost unheard of. She knew Spanish and Latin, and she could not speak any other language, which was a huge problem considering her parents planned that she would be married to a foreign ruler someday. And who was this lucky future husband of hers? He was a young, handsome prince, the son of Henry VII, but he wasn't Henry VIII. At the wedding of Arthur and Catherine in November of 1501, it was 10-year-old Henry who walked Catherine down the aisle. The marriage of Arthur and Catherine, as you might have guessed, did not last long. A few months later, Arthur would fall ill and would die shortly after. No one was sure what would happen to 16-year-old Catherine, who was a widow at such a young age, least of all Catherine herself. Then there was the question of Catherine's virtue. Was she a virgin? This question would haunt her future husband for years to come. And who would Catherine end up marrying? They held this simple ceremony in the Queen's closet on June 11, 1509. Theirs was a near fairy tale romance at first. So when Catherine announced that she was pregnant in November, Henry was overjoyed. But their joy did not last long, because in early 1510, Catherine had a miscarriage. They would try many more times to have children. She even successfully delivered a baby the following year, but it died a month later. But that became small in the scope of things for England, because England had another problem: France. Henry left the country to fight, leaving Catherine in charge. This was the highlight of her life. She was following in the footsteps of her mother, Queen Isabella, who ruled Spain just as much as her husband did. Catherine's father had doubted, just like so many others, that England would not win this war. England was not thought of very highly back then, so when Henry and his troops proved them wrong by being victorious over France, Ferdinand's alliance with England was beginning to crumble. Catherine, however, seemed to be on top of the world. But as talks of peace settled over England, and Henry returned to the country, Catherine found that all the gains she had made in the past year were gone, and she had become simply the royal baby maker again. So it came as even more of a blow when she miscarried. She would miscarry yet again in 1514. But by this time, Spain's alliance with England was fading away. In January of 1516, King Ferdinand died, but the news was kept from Catherine because she was now in labor, delivering a beautiful, healthy baby girl. Her name was Mary. The country was disappointed that the heir was a princess, not a prince as they had hoped. Henry put on a brave face, saying that they were both young, and they could easily have a son someday. But Catherine was in her 30s. To add to this, Catherine was not as attractive as she once was, growing larger in size, while the court standards preferred skinnier women. Henry, being younger, was now bored of his wife, and his eyes began to wander. In 1519, Henry's mistress, Elizabeth Blount, gave birth to Henry's illegitimate child, Henry Fitzroy. Soon after this, he began a short-lived affair with Mary Boleyn, but it ended just as soon as it began. Catherine began to pin her hopes on Mary. She was determined not to lose Mary the way she had her other children, her country of Spain, her father, and soon, her husband. H-E